Okay, welcome everyone. My name is Erica Hagan. I'm here representing MAP Kibera. I'll introduce my colleagues here. Joshua Gore, Director at MAP Kibera. We have Kelvin Mwandiki from SNV. We have Minar Tapamagar from CRS. We have James Gituku from also SNV Kenya. We're going to be talking about different kinds of mapping. Some of the themes that we all will be speaking to have to do with open data and open mapping, community participation with data and with maps, and how each of our organizations has worked to make sure that geographical information is impactful in different communities. So primarily, two of us will focus on informal settlements and slums and data and maps. And then another group, CRS will be, or SNV will be talking about rural areas and farmers. So all benefiting from new technologies in different ways. I'm gonna see if this works. Okay, so I'll start off by giving a background on MAP Kibera. So a lot of people might be familiar already, but if you're not, this organization and this project started a number of years ago. So MAP Kibera has been working in Nairobi and around Kenya and other parts of the world at times since really the initiation was in 2009. So we've seen a lot of ICT4D conferences. We've seen a lot of technology innovations come and go. We've seen a lot of, the last talk in here that I was listening to was humanitarian innovations and why some of them are sustainable and some are not. These are questions that I think a lot of us have been grappling with for many years. This is a satellite image of the Kibera area of Nairobi. And as you can see, it's very densely populated. So way back when, in the early days of ICT4D in 2009, our project began to basically see if we could get Kibera on the map. So at the time, there wasn't a lot of Google Maps coverage of anything, actually. And OpenStreetMap is the tool that we use. It's an open sort of way that people can contribute map data and use map data freely and openly, globally. But there wasn't any map of this very populous part of Nairobi. So my partner and I arrived and we did trainings with young people in Kibera using actually handheld GPS devices and paper. So whatever technology was appropriate for the time, that's what we were using. This is just an image to show you, walking along the path. And Josh will introduce later, and also Zach, who's here to answer questions. We're part of that initial group in Kibera. So this is the kinds of points that were collected. Toilet, M-Pesa stands were very common. Pathways, you could say, community organizations, gardens, movie halls, street lights, just anything and everything. And this was the blank spot that was there. So start out with that density, but that was what you would find. And then we kind of populated it. This is probably even more populated now as a map. So a lot of detail. Which you couldn't see. And a key point is that in an informal area, you can't really see a lot from a satellite image. So as much as remote sensing helps us in other areas with creating maps more quickly in very dense settlement like this, you can't really tell a lot of buildings from each other to see what's inside. So our mapping has always been very ground up, you might say. We kind of started with what's there and with training and with tools and with young people and with community engagement. So we started at that level. So we didn't really start with oh, this is what it's going to be for. A very organic kind of process of determination of where things were headed. So I think the question has been, I mean, I'm coming back here after, I think it's been 10 years since there was the same conference in Nairobi, and we were also present. And people will wonder, like, well, what is, you mapped it, so what now, what next, what is happening now? This is obviously not now, this was during COVID, but I guess my point is, like, once you have an engaged group of people and knowledgeable about data, about their own place, there's a lot of possibilities of what can come. We used Ushahidi software, which some of you may know. I think Ushahidi might be here also. To map where, in the beginning of COVID, where were the instances of COVID in the settlement, and things like where were there, which came from government health sources. So this was not going door to door asking who had COVID or something. And it wasn't particular to a household, so it's not like private data. But it was particular to a neighborhood or an area. And then we layered that with things like where were there resources, and also we found that there was a water issue in terms of, water was thought to be a possible vector at the time. And so people were setting up water stands, and we were kind of mapping those, like the interventions that were meant to keep people safe. We were mapping them, and we ended up kind of moving into a more research analysis of how far people had to go to find clean water. I mean, it kind of took on from there a lot of other possibilities. Okay. We've also mapped in the county with feedback about participatory budgeting projects. So again, communities budgeting their own projects, and then mapping and providing feedback as to how they're going. I'm going to go quickly so we can get to Josh. This is a schools project that's become very important. The community mapped all of the very, very small informal schools and large schools. And I'm going to pass it to Josh to finish talking about this and then how it led to some of the things that they're working on to this day.
Thank you. Let me stand on this. Thank you so much, Erica. So Open Schools Kenya mapped all Kibera schools, put them on the map. And we did not just do that. We even developed a website where each and every school has a profile page. So if you click a school, for example, you can be able to see all the details about them: how many teachers, how many students, how many are male, how many are female, who is the school head, what's their contact, and all that. So it was, for the very first time, we did something called giving back to the community. Kibera has been over-researched. It's one of the places that have been over-photographed, over-filmed. And so it reached a point where members of the community felt like resistance. They started resisting to this kind of things, research, and even journalists coming to do stories in Kibera. So for the first time, they were so happy to see that Map Kibera has done a map and has given back something. The information they collected from them has been given to them, and they were happy to identify themselves with the maps and to say, hey, this is where our school is, and this is where we live. So it was an interesting thing for them. This is our former member of parliament, Honorable Ken Okoth, the late. He was a very passionate person about education. So he used our map so well to help improve education in Kibera, and even to build new schools and renovate some. So from our mapping, he did build 3 more secondary schools in Kibera and even improved more schools that needed renovation. And he did not just use the map, he also used the website to create WhatsApp group for schools, for school heads, in order to organize meetings, to discuss what improvements the schools needed in the area. So that was a very interesting thing for the member of parliament. Over time, we have done projects that are soft projects, giving people information, people benefiting from our data. But then, currently, we are running a project with African Scene in partnership with Nottingham University, among other partners, and even Strathmore University, to provide solar panels for schools, the schools that we had mapped. And this originated from the Open Schools Kenya. So to help them, not only to identify which schools to work with, but also to be like an intermediary to help engage with the schools and to explain to them what the project is all about and how it's gonna look like. So doing solar panels for a few selected schools, starting with 10, out of the 350 schools we had mapped, we are doing a pilot to just see how this goes. And it's not just giving them solar panels for lighting. We are also considering things like how can they use these solar panels to pump water, to come up with a community energy hub that even just community members, parents can be able to come to the school and do laundry, for example. They can also use it for cooking and even hot showers. So different schools will be using it for different services. And this is a pilot we want to see the business model. If they were to pay a loan, for example, for this, can they be able to save the cost they've been using for electricity to be able to pay for these solar panels after 7 years, for example? Also another project we are doing is with Livelihood Impact Fund. This is an American organization. So we did some mapping of lighting before in Kibra. And so they read our blog about this and they reached out. So they wanted us to help them measure the impact of lighting in Kibra. So what we are doing is to first map what lightings are there and then install more and then talk to the people around Kibera, those who are doing businesses along the streets in Kibera, the households. How is this changing their lives? I mean, does this change the timing, opening hours for their businesses? Does this reduce the security issues? And does this change translate to the, income they get over time? So this is in partnership with Livelihood Impact Fund. Is it? Okay. Yeah, so that's that about the mapping of the lights. So we have also done, apart from doing maps, like hard copies, we've also gone offline to try and do murals on the wall so people can also get to see our maps and interact with it offline.
There's a lot more to say, but let's pass it along. Pass the mic.
Thank you very much. Hello, everyone. I'm Minar with Catholic Relief Services, and I'm going to talk about use of geospatial and digital tools. Again, building on what colleagues have said, Erika and Josh have said before, mostly focusing on government system strengthening and looking for long-term sustainable development. Story starts from Pakistan, and the pilot that we've done in Pakistan was after 2020, the flood. More than 2.1 million houses were destroyed, and more than 12 million population were impacted. While we were working with government to reconstruct these 2.1 million homes, there was multiple needs from multiple sectors were identified, and that is where we came up with this pilot concept of climate resilient settlement development plan. It's just basically coupling the community-led process, like colleagues were mentioning before, with technology and integrating it within the system of the government for long-term use. Seeing the current global scenario, we were also integrating climate, similarly resource mobilizations in current resource constraint scenarios in the world. And it has been a very useful tools for development. It's like base for the development work. Again, when we look into process map, we try to look into the final system from the government side, and then we started doing backward step to come to the front. So again, the final output is localized government system to host everything. There was another slide which shows like all the tools being used. And in the same process, like again, acquiring a drone map or satellite image where it's available, using free data, informations and layers that are available, connecting it with socio-economic data, that is household survey that we always used to do, community-led informations, and various infrastructure planning to the process. And again, blending all of this into a process, there were multiple tools being used, from ArcGIS, QGIS, Open Data Kit, to Power BI to do analysis. We were taking it to a settlement master plan package. Again, master plan for practitioners or government to implement on the ground. And visualizing everything in dashboard using ArcGIS is, we have seen amazing plans in ourselves, but nobody reads those plans. So everything was visualized so that all decision makers could look it into a dashboards. And finally, development of the government system. Again, we had to make sure that we are trying to bridge the gap between macro level planning, where government does the high level planning, and the community micro level planning, where community identifies the needs and contribute to the process. And bridging those and integrating both in a system is very complex, challenging, but that is one of the useful outputs that we were able to do. Challenge that we had to tackle is a lot of data, a lot of informations coming in different formats: number, text, lines, polygons, pictures, AutoCAD designs. Bringing it into single database was one of the work that we were able to do. A lot of challenges, a lot of lessons learned, and now we are doing it better in other contexts and other countries as well. So we use Power BI. Again, the colleagues, if you could click on, okay, thank you. So Power BI, just for analysis of socio multidimensional poverty index, looking into every indicators of all the sectors like education, health, similarly standard of living, access to water, and even looking into nitty-gritty of those data and information into the process. It is kind of an animation that was working, but now it's quite blank here. Now this is our GIS, where we were able to bring all the information together and create one-stop solutions with the household level data. And it's like a big shopping center. So if government is investing in a road, the road is there with the length, with the budget. If one donor picks like 5 toilet or latrine constructions, they could pick it. There's socioeconomic data aligned to this, and they could even filter out. If one organization is coming to support person with disabilities, then it will just, with one click, it filters out all the houses and shows where the people, person with disabilities people are living, so that they could do tailored interventions. So this was helpful for visualization. I'm stuck with a slide changer as well. So you thank you. I'm seeing myself. So it's all about the same visualization as you've already seen this tool. And it gives all the granular detail and combines all the future planning with cost and estimates. Also helps us to track like who is doing what where, the money that is required, a gap that is required to fund. So government is using this information and dashboard to mobilize resources. The recovery program that started with $5 million today is $2.6 billion from housing to water to sanitation facilities to infrastructures and so on. And moving to next slide is now, in order to make it sustainable, moving to next slide, skipping this one, is we had to code it for a local government system. Now, this system is integrating planning, implementation, monitoring and reporting, and combining all the systems with different level of access. So different government departments have different access. For water department, they can see all the water data, planning, progress reports, and so on. Similarly, any organizations working there could access those informations and data from the ground. The interesting part is there is a public version of the dashboard, which is available for public and also for every stakeholders for accountability and transparency. This is still ongoing in terms of public phase of the dashboard. Is we are discussing with government, we are discussing about like data safety, security, and safeguarding to make sure that those data are available for everyone, and it's also useful up to the community level. Again, the main lessons that we learned is we have seen more than 100 dashboards in same country with different government departments, different organizations, but this was helping them to bring all the informations and layers as one-stop solutions. And not just only looking into recovery and development, but now it has been layered for anticipatory action, DRR, similarly for resource mobilizations, for future planning, government annual and budgeting systems, and also looking into, we were able to do some pilot in remote loss and damage assessments with 2025 flood as well, because it gives entire digital footprint for the process. Now, with some learnings, this kind of approach process is being adopted in other countries like Sierra Leone. In 3 settlements, the pilot is being done in informal settlements where city council has been developing area action plan, government level, where community have developed community action plan at the community level. And everything has been visualized here with socio-economic data. Like we could even filter out at the households level and get those informations. Really helpful is how we could overlay like disaster, like flood extents information. You could already see, like if we are investing for a road in that blue area where pink is the road, then we are doing a wrong investment over there. So maybe we might need to consider what are the disaster resilient components that needs to be factored while developing those roads. There are other informations and other layers on this, like heat, drought. Any other layers could be hosted here. So any organization doing similar kind of work can support local government in data visualizations as well as actions that can be carried out. Similarly, there is same concept in different setup in Syria. Now we are discussing with government to look into a damage grade assessments, urban planning, disaster risk reduction, because in Syria there is a new ministry looking into emergency and disaster management. That's coming in the next slide. If team can move from there. And with this, other governments from Gambia, Moldova, Ukraine, we are using the same approach, different workflow, different softwares based on the context that is there, and helping strengthening the local systems and also make sure that the system runs for long term and everybody is benefiting it. And one of the aspiration that we see is that if there is money coming in, if there is effective implementation being done, and if it's showing the progress for transparency and accountable, everybody will be using the system. I would like to end my presentation with some of the pictures from Pakistan where implementation has been done based on the similar activities and planning that is being done. Thank you very much. I would like to pass over to James.
Okay. Yeah. So allow me to quickly introduce SNV so that my colleague can also get to tell us about the technology quickly. And I'll start by also saying that there is another colleague of ours by name Oscar Nzoka, who is a climate smart engineer who was heavily involved in this but was not able to join us. SNV is an international non-government organization headquartered in the Netherlands and has been active in Kenya since the late 1960s. And it's active in the areas of water, food and energy nexus, and also works in building capacity, landscapes, agriculture, energy, and also gender and social inclusivity. Now, within our work, we had a project called CRAFT. CRAFT is a Climate Resilient Agriculture for Tomorrow. It was implemented in 3 countries in East Africa. And part of the work of CRAFT was to build the resilience within smallholder farmers by bringing skills in climate smart agriculture. But the approach was that it was private sector led. And one of the service delivery models, or one of the technologies that Kraft piloted, was use of demonstration plots. And it is within this that we observed that by the time farmers realized that there were some serious deficits or problems with the crops, then the window for reaction was already lost. And that is the basis of the innovation or the exercise that we did that led to what we'll be presenting shortly, so that now we are able to show what that particular innovation can help us do. But in briefly about Kraft, it was, like I said, implemented in 3 countries. And you can see it was a private sector led project. So we were working with agri SMEs, small and micro enterprises, to be able to improve the sustainability, but more so the market access of smallholder farmers. One of the, we were working with several value chains. One of them was the potato value chains. Then we had common beans and also the green grams. And this innovation was based within the potato value chain. So now I'll let my colleague take over and tell us about this particular innovation and the implications and perhaps the next steps towards the end.
Thank you, James, for that overview. Erica and Mina started with the general view from the urban sector, but we want to go to the rural context, whereby we are talking about the farmers. And one of the biggest challenges that farmers or the agricultural setup or system face is timing. And when we talk about timing, we are talking about rainfall, when to plant their crops or value chains, all the way to harvesting and nutrient management. And one thing that in the Kraft project we looked is how can we solve the issue of this timing in terms of moisture, pest, and disease that are invading the crops. And that's how we brought this concept. So as James said, the Kraft project provided a very strong operational context in terms of a climate smart agriculture. And one thing that we asked ourselves is, how about instead of waiting for the farmers to identify or to see the infected crops, how about if, for example, the value chains could tell us the stress? And our focus in this presentation was the potato value chain. So how can potatoes themselves tell us they are stressed instead of waiting for farmers to see this visibility? And yeah, so we came up with this approach or the workflow, whereby we looked at the 3 critical components. And the first one was we started with the Earth observation data. That is the Earth of the satellite, whereby we use Sentinel-2, which is a 10-meter resolution, and it's our open source data. And then we went all the way to the ground observations and mapping of the demonstration farms. And then now the next one was the GIS analysis and the time series part. So this is whereby we were just looking at or monitoring the crops from before planting, during the first weeks of the planting, the growing stage, to the flowering, all the way to harvesting. So this is how we used to monitor the crops using the technologies that I believe you're aware of, the NDVIs, the NDVWI, the water index, and vegetation index. So one of the things that we did is we did not rely on isolated snapshot, but we focused on continuous monitoring of these crops. And during all these lists, and it allowed us to, in terms of identifying the abnormal crop growth. Another one is in terms of the vulnerability patterns, changes over the time. And as you see on the map on the right side, that you see, there are these demonstration points that we are trying to monitor. The first one shows that the early stages of the potato value chain when we planted the first week. And then the next one that has a lot of yellow color on the some of the part, it shows it is quietly affected. And this was due to a lot of flooding and caused some of leaching, something like that. And then we reached out to farmers and gave them a suggestion of what kind of input they can use to mitigate this kind of challenge. And then a month and some weeks later, we did another monitoring using the same satellite technology, and you can see the whole farm is green. So that means the crops are healthy. So this analysis, you see we are monitoring every week, and that means the satellite really worked well. But now the question was, did this satellite help us? Or did even this potato value chain even care? And when we look at sorry about that. Yeah, please help. So when we look at that, that is how the process we use, but we're talking about the impact. So did the satellite data really help us in terms of this process? So we really identified the moisture stress 11 days before us as human being can see the real change. Because you see the satellite, the concept is we are monitoring the reflected light from the crop to the space. So by the time us as human being can identify that or can see the effect, using satellite, we identify it's 11 days before us human being can see that. And this created a very critical intervention value or window, and not after damage, but before the damage. And we realized as well as 35% of the farms that used farms that used our system in terms of monitoring and alert, they earned that 5% increase in yield. And the ones that are comparing to the ones that did not have these isolated, did not get this alert. So this is important because the value of Earth observation is not about just generating map alone, but it's the value of enabling earlier decisions. So beyond monitoring, the next slide. One of the lessons that we learned is this GIS system, it's not, can support many different themes. And the first one is in terms of farmers. So in terms of the earlier responses or early warning response that we came up with. And when we go to the extension, also for extension agents, for example, as the government, the countries, you know, in agriculture sector, we have the county extension officers. So at least they could be able to prioritize areas or the farms that are highly affected, the ones that we are working on, and they could at least reach out in terms of monitoring. But when we come again to the program, the craft, and us as an organization, it gives us in terms of value of evidence-based analysis and decision-making, and also as well as adaptive management. If you look at that map that is there, it's a map where we did analysis of before the craft project of the potato value chain and after the craft project. So how did these practices, the climate smart agriculture practices, and also the trainings that we are doing, and the model and the system of the technology helping us in terms of to the potato value chain. So if I quickly go to the next slide in terms of scaling, the lessons that we learned is that it's good to use open data open source map data that can be integrated as well as with other systems from the government. I'm being told the time is up, so we can jump to the last slide, if I can talk of the call to action. And as my colleague has said, SNV works in the intersection of the development, climate resilience, and as well as our system transformation. And one of the things that we identified is, as a farmer, it's very difficult to interpret the satellite data or the spatial data. If you give a farmer this data we are talking about in the conference, the AI, it's very difficult for them to understand. So how can we transform or translate this data to a language that a farmer understands? And then that's where us as SNV created a platform, a digital platform that is able to give this information in terms of nutrient management, in terms of fertilizer recommendations that farmers can be able to help them all the way from planting to the harvesting of the crop, the value chains that they're cultivating. Thank you.
Thank you. Great. Thanks to all our presenters. We're gonna do a little bit of like Q&A time. First, I just wanted to draw your attention to, these are 3 fairly different initiatives using geospatial data in different ways, right? They may seem quite different, but they're like, I was just noticing on your slide, you used participatory GIS techniques with farmers. So it's not just using the satellite imagery and the advanced sort of analysis, it's also the farmer engagement piece that has made it one of your successful pilots or programs. And the same thing with the initiative that was mostly, we saw the Pakistan example. There's a lot of community engagement inside of, that dashboard. I think that that's very important to pull out, and I think it's obvious that, in Map Kibera also does a lot of community engagement. I just wanted to ask, maybe I'll just do a quick question of my own for the panelists. Why is that part essential to your, your tools and your dashboards?
So thank you very much. I'll go in a very short phrase is we often see a big gap whenever there is being planning done by the government level or the partners level and disconnect what community wants. And in order to visualize that, in order to make people realize that, we need to put it in front of our eyes, and then only we will realize. This has helped us in order to negotiate with the government, with donors and actors, to say like, hey, the plan that we are putting together is not what the community needs. So check one layer, what community needs, another layer, what government donors or partners are developing, and we can easily find the difference and we can advocate on behalf of the community. Thank you.
Did you have a comment on that, Calvin? Or did you want to comment or James?
Yeah, I think for us working in the humanitarian field, it's critical that solutions that we come up with are relevant to the end users. And I think it's one thing to develop a technology, whether or not it's based on satellite or whatever other platform, and the uptake. Like just where my colleague stopped, then the next phase is how can this be now scaled to be relevant to the millions of smallholder farmers? As you saw, those figures are big, but then it is not possible to run this on philanthropy. It has to be now scaled to the private sector. And for it to be relevant, then it means even the process of building it has to be co-created with the users. And that is why it is critical that that has to go through the users. So kind of the user testing aspect of this technology.
All right, I wanted to see who has a question. You can raise your hand. I think someone will give you the microphone. If any, oh, I see one there. A plant in the audience perhaps, but. Okay.
Hi, my name is David Lamayan. I am a farmer in Eldoret. And my question is, how do I get access to these systems as a farmer? As you said, I think there's private sector engagement, but as a smallholder farmer in Eldoret, in a town where a lot of farming happens, and the same issues that you have there, how do I get access to that system and that kind of data?
I think he's asking if you made a mural or painted or printed it. No.
Yeah, so within the same project and others that the SNV does, in form of the exit strategy, we look for ways where we can leave whatever solutions and technologies that have been developed within the community. So in this particular aspect, we were working even with the CARO, the Kenya Agricultural Livestock Research Organization, and we developed a platform. The purpose of the platform was to convey weather information to farmers. So the idea behind this was to include this weather information together with this information in terms of early warning on alerts to farmers to be able to make decisions timely, like we presented. But then the concern that we see and are aware of is that this cannot be done through the public sector. It is not possible, and the Caro is public sector, and also philanthropy like us, we cannot. So now what we are looking for is perhaps an opportunity to scale it with the private sector. So we are happy to discuss options where we can actually design a process where now this technology can be scaled to the private sector so that now it can actually be rolled out to farmers like you, because that's the only way that it can actually be truly sustainable.
Yeah, and another one, as I was adding, is we have a chatbot, WhatsApp chatbot, whereby a farmer can go around the farm and then map that one, and then that can provide soil nutrient or soil information carbon that a farmer can, also the cost or the prices of the fertilizers and the fertilizer nutrients they can apply, and also the type of value chain. Is that?
Is there another hand up? No? No more questions? We just have a couple more minutes anyway. I guess I wanted to, I've been thinking through yeah, you have a question? Oh, let's hear it. Shout it out. I mean, not the online people, but. While he's walking back, I just wanted to say that, I've been thinking about some of the themes of the conference, and I just really wanted to, raise some of the things that we have been talking about with participation and information have been coming up in other sessions. Especially, I want to reference the talk on data colonialism. That was interesting because we've been talking about data extraction from communities without giving back as an issue for several years, and I like to see it continue to be raised. Go ahead.
So this is to Erica.
Yeah.
Jeffrey asks, is Map Kibera still an ongoing active project? And if so, where do you see it going from here?
If
And
so,
how active is the government working with this project?
If so, where is it? I missed a word.
Kibera.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yes, still an active project, still an active organization. Josh, do you want to say about what the second part about government?
Can you repeat the question about the government, please?
So I'll just ask the question again. Is Map Kibera still an ongoing active project? And if so, where do you see it going from here? And how active is the government working on this project, with this project?
Yeah, thank you for that question. And as you may have seen in my slides, I was talking about our current project with African Scene, doing solar panel for schools, and also with LEAF, mapping lightings in Kibera and measuring impact. So we are active, and we are very much active. With the government, you saw Erica's slide working with the county government. That was a previous project, though, with World Bank. But we really don't work directly with the national government, but we have partnered. I know cases where they have come for our maps to use, especially security map has been a very hot cake map for them, especially during elections, to help them monitor which areas to focus their police patrols in, and also to know which areas are safe and not safe. So yeah, we are very active and work with governments.
And just the final part of that was, where do we go from here? I mean, I think that that's part of what we're looking at this event, and seeing the advent of, AI and these new kinds of tools. I think, there's definitely a role for organizations like Map Kibera that really deeply engage with communities on a long-term basis. I think that's come up in several sessions. It's like not, it's still not just about the technology. It's about people. So yeah, and we're moving forward into the new technological age. as well. So, and I think we're out of time. Does anyone want to have a final wrap-up comment?
Yeah, so again, to the farmer and the farmers in the room, I just needed to add that within the same platform, we worked with the county governments to interpret weather information to a way that farmers can understand. And that is actually now going on. So what you just need to do is to link up with your county weather office, and they have these weekly, I think, and also monthly bulletins on weather based on that. So it was weather localization to interpret weather data so that farmers can be able to use it. And it's also based on the same platform, but that's actually one way that we have something that is live and ongoing that an actual farmer can use in terms of timely weather information for decision making.
Yes, thank you very much for the organizer and the colleagues. It's really interesting to learn from different approach. Just final word from my side as part of the process is, while we are doing this in all the country, the thing that we are trying to see is how we can invest 20% in the process, in the planning process, and get the output at 80% is what we are focusing, rather than collecting a lot of informations, lot of layers which might not be needed, and having that kind of a dashboard which is common for everyone might be a solutions for government partners and the community.
My closing part, I think, would be in trying to, with the principle of leaving no one behind, we empower communities to be able to map themselves in order to make the invisible visible. Thank you.
Thank you.